Hello students, how are you? Good? Thank you very much. I am fine too. Thank you for asking. So before we are continue on the today's material, I want you to pray together with me. Starting from 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, praying begins. Done? Okay, thank you. Do you guys have any idea what we are going to talk about for today? Based on this presentation, today we are going to talk about news item. Do you guys have any idea what is news? Do you guys know what is news? Or do you have seen what news is? No? Okay, so, alright, those are the purpose of today's material. Now, we are going to talk about the kompetensi dasar. Kompetensi dasar nomor 1 adalah mencukuri kesempatan dan mempelajari bahasa Inggris sebagai bahasa pengantar komunikasi internasional yang diwujudkan dalam semangat belajar. Next, menunjukkan perilaku tentang tanggung jawab, peduli kerjasama, dan cinta damai dalam melaksanakan komunikasi fungsional. Next. 3.4 membedakan fungsi sosial, struktur teks, dan unsur kebahasaan beberapa teks news item lisan maupun tertulis dengan meminta informasi terkait berita sederhana yang bisa didapatkan dari koran, radio maupun TV sesuai dengan konteks penggunaannya. Next, yang selanjutnya adalah menangkap makna secara konstekstual terkait fungsi sosial, struktur teks, dan unsur kebahasaan teks news item lisan maupun tertulis dalam bentuk berita sederhana, koran, radio, televisi. First, we are going to talk about the purpose of this study. Tujuan pembelajaran. Setelah mengikuti proses pembelajaran, peserta didik diharapkan dapat nomor 1, mengidentifikasi beberapa teks information report terkait mata pelajaran lain di kelas 12. Yang kedua adalah mengidentifikasi bagian struktur teks report dan mengamati cara penggunaannya. Next, nomor 3. Tujuan pembelajaran nomor 3 adalah mengidentifikasi unsur kebahasaan beberapa teks news item. Selanjutnya, membuat teks tentang fenomena alam dan fenomena sosial pendek dan sederhana. Next, mempresentasikan teksnya kepada teman-teman di kelas. Nah, itu adalah kompetensi dasar. Selanjutnya kita akan membahas tentang definition and structure of news item text. Until now, do you have any questions, students? Before we continue about what is news item? No, okay? So I want you to guess, do you have any idea what is about news item, or do you ever listen of news item before? No, okay. So news item text is a type of text that provides information about daily events. So teks berita itu adalah teks yang disajikan setiap harinya. News item is a type of text in English. So the news item use English language. If you want to be a reliable journalist, so news item, in order to be a good news item, you have to have a newsworthy news. So jadi sesuatu bisa dikatakan sebagai teks berita jika kalian bisa menampilkan berita yang pantas untuk ditampilkan atau penting untuk ditampilkan. Contohnya adalah pemilu, COVID-19, atau kejadian besar lainnya. Selanjutnya adalah tujuan dari news item. So, the purpose of news item is the communicative purpose of this type of text is to tell readers and listeners or viewers, if you are from the television, about events or incidents that are considered important or newsworthy. So, the purpose, tujuan dari teks berita adalah memberitahu pembaca, pendengar, atau penonton tentang kejadian-kejadian yang terjadi setiap harinya yang penting untuk diberitakan. So, if that is not important, jika itu tidak penting, maka itu tidak bisa disebut sebagai teks berita. Jadi sesuatu harus ditampilkan karena itu penting. Next, we have the structure and linguistic features. So, if you wanted to make a news item, if you want to understand what is news item, you have to know the structure and the linguistic feature. In the news item text, there are 3 parts. Jadi ada 3 bagian tentang struktur dari news item. Yang pertama adalah main event atau kejadian utama. Main event, this is also a part that often called the newsworthy event. So, in this part, we are talking about the news or the event, the core of the event in a summary. So, in main event, itu berisikan tentang berita, kejadian, atau peristiwa yang diringkas dalam beberapa kalimat saja. In just a few sentences, 2 or 3 sentences. So, this part is called like the summary of the news. Next, number 2, we have the background event atau latar belakang. In background event, we are talking about the background or the event of the incident. How can the event happen? Bagaimana kejadian tersebut dapat terjadi? Dan siapa yang terlibat? Who are involved in the incident? Or where are the incidents? Or how come the incident happens? Bagaimana kejadian tersebut dapat terjadi? Those are called the background event atau latar belakang. So, one more thing, the background event usually called elaboration. Next, the last part of the structure of the news item, sources. Until now, do you have any questions, students, before I continue on the material? After I told you about all the structure, I will ask you one question. Next, sources. The last part of the generic structure is sources, which tells about comments, witnesses, or events or opinions of experts and etc. about the events or incidents that are reported. So, in sources, there are the opinions of experts, the comments of the experts about the incident. For example, like Joko Widodo said that the COVID-19 vaccine will not have any political issue. So, in the sources, it talks about who said the comments, who are the comments about the source, about the news. Next, those are the generic structure of news item. There are 3 parts. All right, students, before we continue, I want you to mention how many parts of the generic structure of news item. Yes, correct. There are 3 parts. The first one is main event. The second one is the background event. And the last part is sources. So there are 3 generic structure, 3 main important parts in order a news to be a good news. Jadi, teks berita bisa dikatakan memiliki banyak kejadian penting jika kalian bisa memahami 3 bagian tersebut. Next. Now we are going to talk about the linguistic feature. Number 1, linguistic feature includes information as the news headline. So, kejadian teks berita bisa dikatakan sebuah berita jika kalian punya headline atau judul. Because news item text is a text that describes the most recent news. News item itu memberitakan tentang berita yang terjadi akhir-akhir ini. Jadi tidak boleh memiliki berita atau memberikan berita yang lampau atau sudah ketinggalan zaman. So, news item have to be updated, harus up to date about the present news and should be fact and accurate. Jadi harus sesuai fakta dan akurat tentang kejadian yang terjadi in the main headline in the news. The news item text include information that is not fictional. You should not have tell about lies. Kalian tidak boleh berbohong tentang isi dari berita. Tidak boleh berita yang fiksi dan harus fakta. Second, you have to use verb actions. So for example, about verb actions, walking, or eating, or drinking, it talks about, jadi verb action itu adalah kata kerja yang bergerak atau melakukan sesuatu. For example, a car hit a motorcycle. Sebuah mobil menabrak seorang pengendara motor. Menabrak adalah contoh kata kerja yang bergerak. Next, number 3 of the linguistic feature of news item. You have to use the using of the saying verb. Jadi ada kata sebutan. News seekers who then write the news item text are required to use saying verbs. For example, said and stated. For example, in the news, Joko Widodo said he will be elected for the next president. Joko Widodo berkata dia akan menyalon kembali untuk pemilu selanjutnya. That is just for the example. This word can explain additional information from witnesses or the police. So, who use it? Usually people or the witnesses of the news. Jadi yang menggunakan saying verb adalah biasanya orang yang terlibat dalam kejadian tersebut. Contohnya para polisi, para aparat keamanan, dan juga saksi mata. Mereka menggunakan saying verb. Number 4, you have to use passive sentences. News item text tells of something that has happened. So, teks berita adalah sesuatu yang telah terjadi. That has happened. And then it is reported in the form of news. So that the writer must use the passive verbs in writing the sentences. For example, I will make a vaccine about COVID-19, said the doctor of China. That is the example of passive sentences. Next, the last part of the linguistic feature of news item, number 5. Use adverb in passive sentences. You are asked to write the adverb in the passive when writing the news sentences that is presented in the news item text. So, for example, adverb of time, adverb of place, adverb of location. Jadi, it talks about the tempat, kapan terjadinya apa berita tersebut, di mana terjadinya berita tersebut, dan siapa yang terlibat dalam berita tersebut. So, until now, students, do you have any questions? Alright, I want to ask you one question about the linguistic feature of the news item. So, students, how many parts of linguistic feature that the news item have? Correct. So, the news item have 5 linguistic features. Next, I will show you an example of news text. Saya akan beri kalian contoh tentang teks berita yang telah saya jabarkan sendiri. So, this is a news item. Do you have any idea after you are reading these sentences, the headlines, and the picture showed over here? Do you have any idea what we are going to talk about? Correct. We are going to talk about COVID-19. So, the first paragraph It tells about the newsworthy event, the generic structure of news. It talks about the newsworthy event. President Joko Widodo has made assurance that this administration will use the most top planned pronouncement and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines. Those are the example of newsworthy event. Newsworthy event usually plays on the first paragraph. Jadi, newsworthy event itu biasanya diletakkan di paragraf pertama. Paragraf pertama sebuah berita. For example, in here. This is the example of the newsworthy event. Next, we have sources. Sources is the generic structure number 3 of news item. Usually, sources can be placed anywhere. For example, it can be on the second paragraph, it can be on the third paragraph, but in this example, the sources are placed on the second paragraph. This is the example of the source. The source talks about the opinions of experts, the comments of the news, the opinions of the experts, and the witnesses. Jadi di source itu dikatakan tentang apa yang dibicarakan oleh para saksi, apa yang dibicarakan oleh para pengamat ahli, maupun petugas keamanan. Usually, in the sources, itu ada pengutipan kata. Petik 2. Nah, those are the example if you want to identify where the sources is. Next, we have the background event. So, for example, in this news, the background event placed on the bottom of the news in here. So, sources and background event can be placed anywhere. On the second paragraph, on the third paragraph, on the last paragraph. But the newsworthy event should be on the first paragraph. So in the background event, it talks about who did the incidents, who are involved in the incident, siapa yang terlibat di kejadian tersebut, siapa yang melakukan kejadian tersebut, dan bagaimana kejadian tersebut dapat terjadi. Apa yang dibicarakan dalam berita tersebut. In here, in the example of this news, who is involved? Jokowi yang terlibat dalam berita ini adalah Jokowi. What are they talking about? They talk about the vaccines of COVID-19. Mereka membicarakan tentang vaksin dari COVID-19. Where is the location? In here, you can see that President said during a special interview with the Kompas TV. So, these underlined words, this is the example of the passive sentences of news item. So, that is the linguistic feature. News item should have the passive sentences. In this underlined sentences, I have give you example of passive sentence in this news. Next, we have, alright, this is the adverb of place. Di mana kejadian ini terjadi. Where is the place? The place happened on Brazil. Kejadian ini terjadi di Brazil. Next, the adverb of time. When the incident happens. Kapan kejadian tersebut terjadi. In here, I have give you example too about when the incidents happen. It happens in the late October. Terjadi pada akhir Oktober. So, this is called a news because it has adverb of time, adverb of places, it has the background event, it has newsworthy event, it has sources. So this is the complete package. Ini adalah paket komplit tentang contoh teks berita. This is the good example of news item, news text. Right, up until now, students, do you have any questions before we continue on the material? I believe you have 1 or 2 questions material that you do not understand and you want to ask. So I will tell you once more. In order the news item to be a good news, bagaimana teks berita bisa dikatakan teks berita yang baik? It should have 3 generic structure. The first one was main event. The second one was background event. The third one is sources. Also, you cannot forget the linguistic part. Kalian tidak bisa melupakan linguistik, unsur kebahasaan dari teks berita. If a good news item have a good 3 generic structure and 5 linguistic feature, that is called a news. Jadi, teks berita mempunyai 3 bagian struktur dan 5 unsur kebahasaan. Itu adalah contoh teks berita yang sempurna atau yang baik. Next, so you have learned about the structure of the news item, the linguistic feature of the news item. So I will show you about the example of question that usually used on the multiple choice item. Jadi ini adalah contoh teks. Saya akan memberikan kalian contoh teks tentang teks berita, tapi dalam bentuk pilihan ganda or multiple choice item. So in this part, the first question, it has airplanes. Ada pesawat terbang. So it can be concluded that the news will talk about planes. What happened to the planes? All right, I want one of you guys, read the text over here. Okay, done. So in here, it talks about the national flag carrier of Garuda Indonesia. Garuda Indonesia is a plane. Itu adalah pesawat. What happens? There is a delay on the planes. So, for the questions, what is the text about? So one of your friend has read the news. What is the text about? Apa yang terjadi pada teks tersebut? Jadi salah satu teman kalian sudah saya beri kesempatan untuk membaca. What is the text about? For option A, the direct flights of Garuda Indonesia from Yogyakarta to Surakarta. Option B, slight plane accident in Adi Sucipto runway lane. Option C, evacuation of Garuda Indonesia after its incident. Option D, confirmation of Garuda Indonesia VP of Corporate Communication about overshot accident. A, the delay of Garuda Indonesia after one of its planes overshot an Adi Sucipto runway lane. So, students, choose one answer. Who is the correct answer? Which one is the correct answer for this question? Good. Impressive. Good job. So the first question is A, the direct flights of Garuda Indonesia from Yogyakarta to Surakarta. Jawaban dari nomor 1 adalah A, the direct flights of Garuda Indonesia from Yogyakarta to Surakarta because of the runway process of the incident. Good. Thank you for answering the first question. Good job. Next, for the second question. This is the continue of the previous text, previous news. Right. I will give you time to read the news. Please read the news. Done, okay. Number 2. This is still on the planes. Ini masih membahas tentang pesawat. Kejadian yang dialami, apa saja kejadian tentang pesawat ini, di mana kejadian ini terjadi. Number 2, it can be concluded from text above. Yang dapat disimpulkan dari teks berikut adalah A, Adi Sucipto Airport will be closed after the incident. this is a airport. What happened on the airport? Is it A or B? Because of the incident, Garuda Indonesia cannot redirect Yogyakarta flights to Surakarta permanently. Is it true? The question for the answer of the question 2, is it B or is it C? Garuda Indonesia supplied bus to support passengers from Surakarta to Yogyakarta. Or is it D, the Garuda Indonesia had been finished evacuating its plane when the news was reported? Or it could be A, there are a lot of passengers were harmed due to that accident. Ada banyak sekali penumpang yang terluka karena kejadian tersebut. Students, please answer number 2. Good job. Thank you very much for answering the question. The answer for number 2 is A. Adi Sucipto Airport will be closed after the incident. Why? Because it talks in the text above, the airport will not close permanently. Jadi bandara ini tidak akan ditutup secara permanen. Hanya sementara saja sampai Adi Sucipto Airport bisa kembali memproses penerbangannya. So because the example of the text, it can be concluded from the text, it means that yang bisa disimpulkan dari teks tersebut adalah, so the other questions, the other answer doesn't have the correct structure. Jadi kalian harus memilih jawaban sesuai dengan teks yang ditampilkan di sini. Jadi kalian tidak boleh menjawab tentang jawaban yang tidak relevan di teks berita tersebut. Okay, so you have to read the news first before you answer the question, so that you know which one is a fact. Yang mana yang fakta, yang mana yang fictional, yang fiksi, which one is real, which one is fake. Jadi mana yang benar dan mana yang palsu. You have to read the news first before you answer the question. Last question, number 3. Still, so for the last part, I will read it for you. It's still on the plans. Ini masih membahas tentang pesawat dan kejadian apa yang terjadi pada pesawat tersebut. So, repeat after me. We will read together. 1, 2, 3. The flights include 10 coming from and going to Jakarta, 3 to and from Denpasar, Bali, 2 to and from Makassar, South Sulawesi, and 1 flight from Surabaya, East Java. Students, please repeat after me. Read the text together and loudly. Thank you very much for reading the text. So, for the questions of the last question. The reason why Garuda Indonesia diverted Yogyakarta flights to Surakarta is because of, alasan mengapa Garuda Indonesia mengalihkan penerbangannya ke Yogyakarta dan membatalkan penerbangannya ke Surakarta adalah, is it A, the maintenance on one of Garuda's Indonesian aircraft? Apakah jawabannya terdapat satu error pada pesawat Garuda? Or is it B, the accident of its plane which slipped on the runway land? Apakah terjadi error pada jalur penerbangan? Or is it C, there are many flights in Adi Sucipto Airport? Apakah ada banyak penerbangan yang dapat membatalkan penerbangan lain? Or D, the statement of Garuda Indonesia VP Corporate Communication, apakah gara-gara statement dari pemilik Garuda atau pengurus Garuda tersebut di bandara tersebut? Or is it A, the evacuation of Garuda Indonesia aircraft? Apakah ada banyak pesawat sehingga membuat kemacetan di bandara? Students, I want you to answer from the A, B, C, or D. Which one is the correct answer? So, all right, thank you. Thank you very much for answering the question. So, that is correct. The answer is B. The accident of its plane which slipped on the runaway lane. So, I think that you understand about this material because you are able to answer all the questions correctly. Kalian dapat membahas atau menjawab semua pertanyaan saya secara benar. So, I think you understand about today's material. So, for the next part of this meeting, we have the conclusion. Kesimpulan apa yang kalian telah pelajari dalam meeting atau pertemuan hari ini? I will ask you a question. Two students have to answer the question. What is news item? Good job, impressive. The news item is a text of type of text that provides information about daily events or past events. So, news item is a text. It talks about a newsworthy events, kejadian yang penting yang dibahas, dan kejadian fakta yang akan dibahas. So, news item is a type of text that provides information atau memberikan informasi tentang berita yang diupdate setiap harinya. Next, what is the purpose of the news item? I have told you about the purpose on the previous slide, on the introduction slide. It talks about the purpose of the news item. So, yes, please answer the question. Not entirely wrong, but some of them is correct. Good job. Thank you very much for answering the question. So, purpose of the news item, it tells to tell readers or the listeners or the viewers about events or incidents that are considered important. So, the purpose, tujuan dari teks berita adalah memberitahu penonton, pembaca maupun pendengar mengenai kejadian yang terjadi setiap hari dan kejadian yang sangat penting. So the news item should be important to be called a news. News item should be updated daily. News item harus diupdate setiap hari. So it has the fresh events, the fresh news. Jadi dia terdapat berita baru yang fresh setiap harinya. So those are the purpose of the news item. Students, do you have any question? For the last time I asked you, please, if you have any questions, if you have something you do not understand about today's material, please do ask me a question about anything. I will ask you about anything before we end the meeting today. No questions? Good. I think all of you now understand about the today's material for the today's meeting. So, that is for today. I will end the meeting for today. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for answering all the questions. That is for me. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.